Hi students, good morning to all of you. Hope you all have enjoyed Onam holidays. Okay, hearty welcome to you for today's moral science session. And here is your moral science teacher, Jyotimol. In today's session, I will be dealing with the 5th chapter of our textbook. The name of our lesson is Making a Difference. Okay, let's begin. Our chapter starts with the thought-provoking words of the great leader Mahatma Gandhi. Here are the words, children. There are people in the world so hungry that God cannot appear to them except in the form of bread. What do you mean by this, God, children? Yes, for a person who is hungry can see God in the form of a piece of bread. What's the reason, children? For a person who is hungry can see God in the form of a piece of bread. Because preachings of God cannot make a starved person happy. Preachings of God cannot make a starved person happy, cannot make a person who is hungry happy. Only food makes him happy, so he can see God to its fullest. I hope you understood the meaning of this thought, children. Okay, let's move on to our textbook. Let me read the first paragraph. The simple fact that you are reading this lesson implies that you are seated in a classroom, that you have books before you, that you are being educated in a school. That puts you among the mere 57% of children of the vast Indian population who attend school. For a majority of the people in India, basic amenities like food, clothing, housing, and education remain a distant dream. Sad but true, India is estimated to have a third of the world's poor. Okay, children, I'll explain to you. First of all, I would like to ask you a question. What are you doing now? Yes, you are listening moral science video. That means you are trying to learn something. You are studying. Do you know, children? You are one among the 57% of children of the vast Indian population, blessed with the chance to read and write. But a majority of people in India, basic amenities like food, clothing, housing, and education remain a distant dream. Did you get the sentence, children? A majority of people in India are living without the basic needs. What all are our basic needs, children? Food, clothing, housing, and education. Have you seen this picture, children? So sad, without any clothes. It's a pathetic condition. Yes, that's the truth, children. No doubt, you are fortunate. You are blessed. You have the books and you are being educated. See the last sentence. India is estimated to have a third of the world's poor. India is calculated as world's third poorest country. So, a majority of people are living without the basic amenities. Food, clothing, housing, education remain a distant dream for them. It's not fulfilled, it's only a dream for them. Okay, children, I hope you understood this paragraph. Let's move on to the next paragraph. A concern for the poor and the underprivileged is a sign of true humanity. As Indians, it's easy for us to ignore the poor, to become hard-hearted, as we are accustomed to seeing them on a daily basis. Begging on the streets, living in slums, sifting, S-I-F-T-I-N-G, sifting through garbage heaps. They are constantly before us. And so, we find it easier to close our eyes and minds to them, choosing to believe that they do not exist. Only a feeling that they too are human beings like each one of us will lead to a realization that we do have a responsibility to reduce their sufferings. A concern for the poor, a concern for the underprivileged, it's a sign of true humanity. What do you mean by humanity? Humanity is a quality of being humane, Our humanity is a quality of being compassionate to our fellow beings, especially the poor and needy. So, a concern for the poor, a care, concern means care. A concern for the poor and the underprivileged is a sign of true humanity. So, what do you mean by true humanity? A concern for the poor and the underprivileged. Underprivileged means needy people. I hope you get the meaning of the first sentence. Then, next sentence. As we know, we Indians are very familiar with the sights of beggars on streets, people live in slums, sifting through garbage heaps. What's the meaning of sifting, children? SIFTING. Sifting means checking or examining. As we know, we have seen poor orphan children search through the garbage heaps with the hope of getting something to fill their stomach. So, as I told you, the condition of India. See the last sentence. India is estimated to have a third of the world's poor. So, it's very familiar to us. Beggars on streets, people living in slums and sifting through garbage heaps, etc. They are constantly before us. Constantly means continuously. We are very familiar with these sights. So, by that time, what did we do, children? When we see the beggars or when we see poor people living in slums, it's very easy for us to close our eyes and minds to them. What should we do? Actually, we are not worrying about them. Actually, we are not worrying about them. We just ignore them. We just avoid them. We find it easier to close our eyes and minds to them. Am I right, children? Yes. We ignore them. We avoid them. We find it easier to close our eyes and minds to them. And we like to choose to believe that they do not exist in this world. The poor people do not exist in this world itself. So, the last sentence, it's very important, children. You can underline this sentence. Only a feeling that they too are human beings like each one of us will lead to a realization that we do have a responsibility to reduce their sufferings. So, what's the meaning of the last sentence, children? What should we do to make a difference? The answer is here, children. What should we do to make a difference in this world? So, we should have a feeling that we should have a feeling that poor people too are human beings like each one of us. Did you get the sentence? We should have a feeling that the poor people are also human beings like each one of us. Then we will get a realization. What's that a realization? We do have a responsibility to reduce their sufferings. We have a responsibility to reduce their sufferings. So by how, children? We should show our responsibility. We should help them. We should care them. Or we should help the poor people. We should care the poor people. We should try to eradicate poverty from our society. So we should have a feeling that the poor people are also human beings like us. Then we will get the realization that we should have the responsibility to reduce their sufferings. I hope you understood this line, children. It's very important. It's very meaningful, and at the same time, it's the theme of our chapter. The first sentence also, you can underline the first sentence. A concern for the poor and the underprivileged is a sign of true humanity. And at the same time, the next sentence, only a feeling that they too are human beings like each one of us will lead to a realization that we do have a responsibility to reduce their sufferings. Okay, let's move to the next paragraph. Where to begin? What's the meaning of the title, children? From where should we begin to make a difference? Where to begin? Let me read the paragraph. In today's world where the rich are getting richer, the poor keep getting poorer, it's important to become aware of the presence of the poor and the destitute in our society. It's essential for us to discard our suspicions and prejudices and contribute towards the upliftment of the underprivileged. Many a times, it may seem convenient to blame the government, the political parties, leaders, corporates, etc., for the plight of the poor and berate them for not doing enough to eradicate poverty. Yes, they do have a role to play. But as the old saying goes, I wondered why somebody didn't do something. Then I realized I am somebody. Each one of us has the responsibility to care for our brother or sister and ensure that their basic rights are met. Sorry. Count your blessings, but don't forget those who are not as blessed. Okay, children. So, from where should we begin to make a difference in our country? Listen. So, in today's world, as we know, the rich are getting richer. The poor keep getting poorer also. It's very important to take care of the poor children. It's very important to take care of the poor and the destitute in our society. It's high time to discard our suspicions. What do you mean by discard? It's high time to throw away. Discard means throw away. It's high time to throw away our suspicions, our doubts, our prejudices, our customs, and contribute towards the upliftment of the poor needy people. So, where should we begin, children? We should have the feeling that the poor people are also like us. See the sentence, children? Here is the sentence. The other poor people are also like human beings, like each one of us. The poor people are also human beings like each one of us. So what should we do? We should throw away our doubts and suspicions and our customs, and we should contribute towards the upliftment of the poor needy people. It's very convenient for us to blame the government, or it's very easy for us to blame the government, political parties and leaders for not doing anything to eradicate poverty. What do you mean by eradicate? Put an end to. So usually what should we do, children? Usually we will blame the government, or usually we will blame the political parties or leaders for not doing anything to eradicate poverty. There is an old saying, it goes like this, children. I wondered why somebody didn't do something. Then I realized I am somebody. What do you mean by that, children? One day, I wondered why somebody didn't do something for the upliftment of the poor. But one day I realized I am somebody. I am somebody, or I am the responsible person to eradicate poverty from my society. So I realized I am the one who should take the initiative to eradicate poverty of my fellow beings. So each one of us has the responsibility to take care of our brothers and sisters. Each one of us has the responsibility to make sure that they have the basic amenities like food, clothing, housing and education. Did you get the second last sentence, children? Each one of us has the responsibility to take care of our brother and sister and ensure that their basic rights are met. And we have to make sure that they have the basic amenities. What are the basic needs? Food, clothing, housing and education. So what should you do? Count your blessings. You have to look at yourself. You are blessed with the basic needs, luxuries and what all available in this world. You are blessed with all the luxuries. But don't forget those who are not as blessed. But we should not forget those who are not as blessed, those needy people. So in short, we can say we have to take care, or we have to help the poor people. We have to consider them as human beings like one of us. Okay, children, here comes another great personality, Swami Vivekananda. According to the eminent Hindu monk Swami Vivekananda, service to God meant service to the poor. He expounded the religious precept of Daridra Narayana, God in the poor and the lowly. As per Daridra Narayana, it was the duty or responsibility of each individual to serve the poor if they wanted to serve God. For Swamiji, service of the poor equaled worship, and this in turn, he said, would result in harmony among different faiths. Such worship demanded reconciliation among human beings. Swamiji's sincere prayer was, may I be born again and again and suffer thousands of miseries, so that I may worship my God the miserable, my God the poor of all races, of all species. Children, here is an extra information for you about Daridra Narayana. Listen. Daridra Narayana is an axiom enunciated by the late 19th century Indian sage Swami Vivekananda, exposing that service to the poor is equivalent in importance and piety to service to God. This exposition was a result of Vivekananda's wanderings in the country for 2 years, when he personally experienced the privation of the lower classes in our country. So what's it, Daridra Narayana? It's an axiom enunciated by the Indian sage or the Indian monk Swami Vivekananda. So in it he explained that service to poor is equivalent in importance and piety to service to God. That is what is written in our textbook also. As per Daridra Narayana, it's the duty or responsibility of each individual to serve the poor if they wanted to serve God. So if we wanted to serve God, it's our responsibility to serve the poor people also. For Swamiji, service of the poor equaled worship. So he explained the religious precept of Daridra Narayana. So he expounded the second line, expounded, expounded, expounded means explained. He explained the religious precept. Precept means the principle. So he explained the religious precept of Daridra Narayana. What it is, children? God in the poor and the lowly. We can see God in the poor and the lowly. What do you mean by lowly? Lowly means humble or low born. So once again, children, here is the continuation. Vivekananda then referred to feeding the poor as Narayana Seva. Vivekananda considered feeding the poor, giving food to the people as Narayana Seva. Then he preached for Daridra Narayana Seva, meaning service to the poor or service to Narayana. So if we serve the poor, it's a service to God himself. Narayanam Devam Adevam Isham. Lord Narayana, the supreme controller and the ultimate soul of all existence, venerated as the supreme being in Vaishnavism. So Narayana is the supreme controller, or we can call him that's Lord Vishnu. Okay, so the term Daridra Narayana was coined by Vivekananda, but it was popularized by Mahatma Gandhi. So let's move on to our textbook, children. The same content is written here according to the eminent Hindu monk, sage or sannyasi. Swami Vivekananda says, service to God meant service to the poor. So he explained the religious precept, the religious principle of Daridra Narayana, God in the poor and the lowly. As per Daridra Narayana, it was the duty or responsibility of each individual to serve the poor if they wanted to serve God. So that is what is the principle or the religious precept of Daridra Narayana. It is the duty or responsibility of each individual to serve the poor if they wanted to serve God. For Swamiji, service of the poor equaled worship, and it would result in harmony among different faiths. So, according to Swami Vivekananda, service of the poor equaled worship, and it would result in harmony among different faiths. So, such worship leads reconciliation among human beings. What do you mean by reconciliation? Reunion among human beings. So, such worship, which worship? Worship to God means service to the poor. So, God in the poor and the lowly, we can see God in the poor people, or we can see God in the lowly and low-born people. So such worship demanded reconciliation, such worship demanded reunion among human beings. So let's read the sincere prayer of Swamiji. May I be born again and again and suffer thousands of miseries so that I may worship. May God the miserable, my God the poor of all races, of all species. What do you mean by these words, children? Yes, Swami Vivekananda wished born again and again in order to suffer thousands of miseries, so that he might worship his God, so that he might worship the miserable people, so that he might serve the miserable people. He can worship the poor of all races, of all species. That is what is his wish. That's a sincere prayer of Swamiji till his death. So he wished to born again and again in order to suffer thousands of miseries, so that he might worship his God, so that he might serve his miserable people, so that he might serve all the races, all the poor, or all the species in this world. That's the greatness of Swami Vivekananda. Okay, children, let's move on to our last session. Something to think about and discuss in class. There is a question for you, children. Why are there so many teachings in our religious books about the need to recognize the face of God in the poor? What's the meaning of that question, children? In all holy books, the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, all the religious books have the same preaching. Recognize the face of God in the poor. Recognize means identify. Identify the face of God in the poor. Did you get the question, children? There is a question. Why are there so many teachings, so many preachings are in our religious books, and all the religious books have the same content? What's the content? What's the theme? Identify the face of God in the poor. Many great souls worshipped as incarnations of God began their lives in poverty. For example, Sri Krishna, though he belonged to a royal dynasty, was born in a prison and spent his early life in a community of poor cowherds. Jesus Christ was born in a stable amidst animals and squalor. Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam, also came from a poor family. So, have you noticed the similarity, children? Many great souls worshipped as incarnations of God. We consider Sri Krishna as God. We consider Jesus Christ as God. Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam. See, all these people, or all these personalities, or all these great souls worshipped as incarnations of God. They began their lives in poverty. Sri Krishna, even if he belonged to a royal family or royal dynasty, he was born in a prison and spent his early life in a community of poor cowherds. And what about the case of Jesus Christ? Jesus Christ was also born in a stable amidst animals and squalor. Then Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Prophet Muhammad also came from a poor family. So we can say everybody, each and everybody, are all the incarnations of God. They began their lives in poverty. Sri Krishna, Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, all of them came from poor families. Okay, let's move on to our last paragraph. Poverty is not a romantic fantasy but a hard-hitting reality. Life does not seem very poetic when one does not have even one meal a day or a place to sleep at night. In Dominic Lapierre's famous book, City of Joy, he talks of the people living in a slum called Anand Nagar. Although the families in Anand Nagar live in abject poverty and misery, each family shows willingness to share and to welcome those who are as poor or sometimes even poorer than them. Why do you think the poor are more generous and open than the rich? Okay, children, let's move on to the explanation. What do you mean by poverty? Poverty is not a romantic fantasy, it's a hard-hitting reality. Okay, poverty is a hard-hitting reality. It's a very horrible condition. Life does not seem good for a person who doesn't have even one meal a day or a place to sleep at night. Did you get the sentence, children? Life does not seem good for a person who doesn't have even one meal a day or a place to sleep at night. So here you can see the image of Dominic Lapierre's famous book. Here is the picture of Dominic Lapierre and his famous book, The City of Joy. Okay, listen. In Dominic Lapierre's famous book, City of Joy, he talks of the people living in a slum called Anand Nagar. So, Dominic Lapierre talks of the people who are living in a slum. What's the name of that slum, children? Anand Nagar. You know the meaning of Anand. Although the families in Anand Nagar live in abject poverty and misery. So, what's the actual condition of the people in Anand Nagar? Although each and every family in Anand Nagar live in abject poverty, utter poverty and misery, in complete poverty and misery. Yet, each family shows willingness to share, or each family shows willingness to share and welcome those who are as poor or sometimes even poorer than them. So, what did they do, children? They are very happy to share, or they are very happy to welcome those poor or sometimes even poorer than them. That's the condition of Anand Nagar, or the people who are living in a slum called Anand Nagar. So, children, there is a question for you. Why do you think the poor are more generous and open than the rich? What's your opinion, children? It's very simple. The poor people feel the hard-hitting reality of poverty and misery. So they are ever ready to help the poor, or sometimes even poorer than them. Did you get the answer? The poor people, they feel the hard-hitting reality of poverty and misery. So they are ever ready to help the poor, or sometimes even poorer than them. That's the answer to that question, children. So here comes an end of today's session. Hope you understood the portion that I taught you in this lesson or in this session. Read the portion and try to find out the answers of the assignment. Children, I have been a little bit busy with the correction of the answer papers of the unit test, so I couldn't check your assignments. Don't worry, I'll check it soon. If you didn't send the assignment, send it to me as early as possible. Today also, as usual, there is an assignment for you. Read the textbook and write the answers in a better way. Okay, children. Thank you. Have a nice day.